What are the 9 standard eligibility requirements in order to become a U.S. citizen? I'm Erick Widman. I'm an immigration lawyer. And yes, there are 9 factors that USCIS has identified that you must meet in order to naturalize. So we're going to go through them one by one. Number 1, you must be at least 18 years old at the time of filing, unless you're a member of the armed forces, in order to naturalize. So you need to be an adult according to the law. You're not authorized to drink at that point in the United States, but at age 18, you are a legal adult and you're able to naturalize. So on to number 2, you are a permanent resident of the US for the required period of time. So if you are not married to a US citizen, you have to have been a permanent resident for at least 5 years before you can naturalize. But if you're married to a US citizen and you choose to naturalize on that basis, you only have to be a permanent resident for 3 years. But you have to make sure you meet the minimum permanent residence period, 3 years or 5 years. On to number 3. You have lived in the jurisdiction of the USCIS office that you're applying for at least 3 months. So the field office that's closest to you is the place that you're going to go have your citizenship interview at. So you have to have lived there in that state, in that county, for the minimum period of time required to naturalize there. And that is 3 months typically. So, and that's the current rule, 3 months. Number 4, you have demonstrated the required physical presence period in the US. So you must be physically present 50% of the time for either the 5-year period or the 3-year period if you're naturalizing on the basis of your marriage to a US citizen spouse. So you must be physically present, boots on the ground for that minimum period. Similarly, number 5, you must have been continuously present and meet the continuous residence requirement for the minimum period of time. And that is slightly different, a little more complex than the physical presence test, but you can't have broken your continuous residence. And so often the presumption is your continuous residence is broken if you're outside the US for more than 6 months. So you must have maintained continuous residence for the required period in order to naturalize. Number 6, you have to demonstrate good moral character. And that is a standard that's set in accordance with the average person in your community. So you don't have to have flawless character, but if you have had lapses or bad decisions or a criminal record, then you might have to wait and be outside the statutory period of 5 years or 3 years in order to successfully naturalize and show you have good moral character. So that was number 6. Number 7 is you demonstrate an attachment to the principles and ideals of the US Constitution. So you have to take an oath to defend and protect, uphold the ideals of the Constitution. So you has to be a genuine commitment. And thankfully, it's not that hard to do. Americans truly love our Constitution. Number 8, you demonstrate a basic knowledge of US history and government, which is also known as civics. In addition to that, you have to have an ability to read and write and understand basic English. So the civics test currently has 100 questions, and you have to memorize the answers so that you can get 6 out of 10 correct. So the civics test includes questions about history, about government, important figures in our past. And then the English reading and writing test is fairly easy for most everyone if you've been able to get through the equivalent of high school and that your English is proficient based upon the amount of experience and time you spent in the US. It can be difficult for some, but it is in general easier than the civics test for most people. Finally, Number 9, out of the 9 possible criteria that you have to show, you will take an oath of allegiance to the United States and do so wholeheartedly, being willing to give up your prior titles to nobility. So if you were a duke somewhere, you have to renounce that. Most people don't have that problem, but you have to take this oath to swear allegiance to the US. If you are, for example, a pacifist and don't want to take up arms or get involved in any kind of fighting, you can qualify, you have to apply for and qualify for a modified oath. So it's kind of an oath waiver, modified oath application. And you can therefore skip over the part if you are absolutely unwilling to bear arms. You can still become a US citizen, but you have to show you're a genuine pacifist for various reasons, religious reasons, conscientious objector reasons. Hope this was interesting and helpful. Let us know if you have any questions, and definitely take care.